I already told this to the Bible school people, but when the Lord started really touching me with this song, I didn't realize, I didn't hear the words, I didn't listen to the words, but that part where it says, I'll reach out and you'll find me in the dust, that had dear meaning to my heart, because I'm going to share with you a little bit about my salvation experience in the Word. But Mark chapter 1 is one of my favorite chapters in the whole Bible, and I was marked by Mark. Absolutely marked by Mark. The first section, but this is the second section in Mark where Jesus first I love Mark because he's always saying immediately. He's like, he's always in a hurry. Yeah. He's like, immediately, and he really just wanted to get to Jesus. So the first chapter was just like, come on, I just want to get on to Jesus, and I can relate to that because I always just want to get to Jesus too. He's the good part, the only part, the best part is Jesus. Yeah. And so he's hurrying up through the beginning of the gospel to get to Jesus. And here comes Jesus, and he calls his first disciples. And, you know, even the song that they sang about, I will rise on eagle's wings. No more sorrow, no more pain. I will rise when you call my name. Stop. The Lord's calling us today. He's calling us, and he's saying, come follow me. And right in that section of verses, Jesus comes to his disciples, and it says, for they were fishermen. And that tells us so much, because I had just learned about the Hebrew rituals, about the young Hebrew students. They had to go through, it was very difficult for them. Every Jewish student, every Jewish child, they grew up, they were born into their parents' only desires for them were to become a rabbi. Everything was about becoming a rabbi. As soon as they were old enough to learn, they were memorizing the Torah. They were memorizing the first 5 books of the Bible. It was so intense. And there were these schools, and with each school, there was another level of learning, and only the best of the best of the best made it to the next level. And so, every time there was a graduation, most of the students got kicked out. So then the next level was like the elite of the elite. And then they would go, and then the next level would come, and they would weed out even more. And these children, the rabbis made it so difficult for them because the rabbis, they had to know the word inside and out. They had to do crazy things like the students had to know how many times a word was in the Torah just by saying, okay, this word, how many times did that show up? And the students had to know it. They had to be so bright. They had to be good looking. It was exactly how the world is today. And so if they didn't make the cut, then what they had to do at a very young age was go back to their family trade, which were farming, fishing, all of those things. And so when you got to the best of the best level, the children actually dreamt of this. In their night, they dreamt of hearing a rabbi say those words, come follow me. It meant everything to them. They prayed it. They wanted it. It was their parents' dreams. It was their grandparents' dreams. If you didn't get to that level, your life was like nothing. You just went back to the family trade. And a rabbi would only say, come follow me, if he truly believed that the student could actually be exactly like him. And they called it a yoke. A yoke. So a yoke was a rabbi's teaching, and every rabbi had a different type of yoke, a different flavor, a different way of teaching, and the students had to follow these rabbis and memorize their life and everything they do. They had to study it, they had to learn it, they had to literally become the rabbi. And the rabbi would only say, "Come follow me," if he thought he could be like him and even be better than him. And there was this phrase, and the Lord spoke it to me. I learned it right at the very beginning of salvation, that this dust, this thing of dust, that if a student was full of dust, it was a good thing because it meant Because it meant that they were following right behind the rabbi. The closer they were to the rabbi, the more dust they had on them. So the ones that were covered in dust were the ones that were most likely to make it to the next level. Wow. And so Jesus comes on the scene and he says, for they were fishermen, which means for they were rejected, for they were not good enough, for they didn't make the cut, for they were like me, for they were like you. And Jesus says, come follow me. And they drop the nets. But, you know, it's so much more than that, because it's not just come follow me. It's, I think you can be like me. I think you can do what I can do. I think you can do greater things than me. I mean, does that sound familiar? Does that sound like Jesus? And so they dropped their nets just like that. They didn't think about it. They left their families. They left their family businesses and followed Jesus before they even knew he was God. At those words, come follow me. And so in this song, when he's saying, I reach out and you find me in the dust, Jesus himself, who is in this room, is saying, sunburn, abundant joy, you're covered in dust. You're following me. You're right behind me. You're doing the thing. Isn't that awesome? Yeah. Isn't that awesome? Yeah.